So this usually happens when a manager leaves a Premier League club. Stories start to emerge, stories start to leak out that give a little bit of a insight as to some of the reasons behind the departure of the manager in question. And obviously, I'm talking about the recently departed from West Ham. Not dead, not dead. Let's make it clear. He's still very much alive, and I don't want to sort of frighten anyone that might be watching this, unlikely though it might be, that might know Graham Potter personally. He's not dead. And when I say departed, I mean departed West Ham United's employment. There we go. So Graham Potter's obviously left West Ham, and there's a story that's emerged. I think it was the Athletic was the originator of the story. I've actually seen it on other publications since, and you may have as well. And really want to get your insights into what you think about what we're going to delve into. There's a comment section below for that. So the story basically relates to Jared Bowen and his ability as a captain. And I've got a few thoughts on this actually. And look, I think there's a lot of people that, broadly speaking, agree that Jared Bowen, as great a player as he is, obviously that goal in Prague, lots of other goals that he's contributed with, I think a lot of people don't believe that Jared Bowen is a leader, a captain, and there may be that there's a bit of this that possibly resonates with people. But before we get into that, guys, just a little bit of due diligence. If you wouldn't mind dropping a like on the stream and giving us a hype if you have one available, this is what helps to drive the content out there to places it otherwise might not reach. Consider sharing this on your social media platforms. And please have a look to see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, please click subscribe and also hit the bell notification. And that way you'll know of any new content as and when it is uploaded to the channel. This doesn't cost you any money, of course. We don't get any of your data sensitive information. It purely grows the channel from its current base. As last I looked was 1733 subscribers. Please join us on this journey, and we thank you very much indeed for your support. So the story is that Graham Potter was concerned when he arrived at West Ham and in the forthcoming 8-9 months that the leadership that was displayed from Jared Bowen was not up to the mark. Now, it should be recognised that Jared Bowen was already the captain when Graham Potter came into the building. Jared Bowen was installed once Kurt Zouma was moved on, and he was put in place by Julian Lopetegui, the predecessor of Graham Potter. So I do recognise there's an element of it where I sort of think to myself, would it have been a great move on day one of Graham Potter becoming West Ham manager to walk in and rip the captain's armband off of a very highly respected player? It might not be a leader, but I'm pretty sure he's well respected by his colleagues. Would it have been a good move from Graham Potter to rip the captain's armband off of him on day one? And the answer to that, quite simply, is no. And I think that probably I could understand Graham Potter maybe not doing anything with the captaincy in full view of everybody during the course of last season. I think it would have been prudent to keep the captain's armband in position for last season. But I think that one of the failings of Graham Potter, and it's there for all to see, is his inability, his failure to deal with that issue, at least in the transfer window. I mean, there's a few signings that I think that you probably have to question, did we need them? The goalkeeper, for instance, and obviously if you haven't seen the match preview of the Everton game, go and give it a look, where my brother makes the point, did we really need a left back? And I accept that Diouf has been one of our better players this season, but did we really need a left back? You know, when you consider that we had already on the books Aaron Wan-Bissaka that can play at left back, we had Emerson, and I know that obviously there was a clash between those two, but that might have been something that could have been a relationship that was repaired. We had Ollie Scarles. Was left back a priority position that we needed to fill and spend, what, £20 million on a player? Possibly not. Was goalkeeper a priority position? At the time, we had Fabianski, we had Areola, we had Fotheringham. Was it really a priority position? Obviously, as well, you've got the youth goalkeepers like Mason Terry and Finley Herrick. What was a goalkeeper a priority position? And especially given that we know now that the goalkeeper we replaced him in has not been up to the grade. But was it even a necessity to spend 15, £20 million on a goalkeeper? Possibly not. My brother made the point in the match preview of the Everton game that we needed, I think he said, two centre backs. Even if you could have got one centre back, and a centre back with leadership qualities. Now, who that could have been, listen, I am not a director of football. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of world football of who could have been the centre back with leadership qualities. that could have been brought in to fill that particular void, both as a defender and as a captain. But Kyle McCauley and Graham Potter should have that knowledge, and they had the time, they had the money, they had time to gauge this basically from walking through the door. Like I say, I don't advocate they should have ripped the captain's armband off of Jared Bowen the moment they walked in, but they could have evaluated, they could have assessed from that point and got it done in the transfer window. The fact that they didn't is a failure, an abject failure of Graham Potter, not of Jared Bowen. This is not on Jared Bowen. This is not a criticism of him. As I say, I think he's a wonderful player, and I hope he stays at West Ham for the rest of his career. I hope he shatters Michail Antonio's Premier League goal scoring record for the club and takes it to a different stratosphere. But as I say, I've never been a fan of wingers as captains. I think by and large it should probably be a centre back or a central midfielder that's a captain, in my opinion. You can't just give it to any central midfielder. But when you look at the candidates that Graham Potter could have even possibly utilised, even if he didn't bring in someone, what were the options? I mean, listen, we had Edson Alvarez. Now, Edson Alvarez, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is the captain of Mexico, and he was actually the winner of the player of the tournament, man of the tournament, whatever it's called, in the CONCACAF Gold Cup in a victorious team. So again, it's a personality thing. He fell out with Emerson, he fell out with Edson Alvarez, and that's a loan that's worked out really badly when you look at it. In that it was Mourinho that took Alvarez to Fenerbahce because it would appear that he and Potter fell out. Alvarez, that is not Mourinho. And now Mourinho's gone, Potter's gone, and now there's talk that with the captain is possibly not up to the mark as from the previous manager. And as I say, I just think that this again shines a light on why Graham Potter was just not cut out for the job, because you had all that time, you had the money to assess the situation. Whether you'd have bought in someone, you had the ability and the time to do that, and you didn't do it. You brought in players around the periphery. You brought in a knackered centre forward in Callum Wilson. You brought in a potentially good player in Diouf. You brought in a goalkeeper that's a midget. You brought in and has Lurpak fingers. Oh, but he can kick the ball. Oh yeah, okay, that's brilliant. It'd be quite handy if he could kick the ball out the back of the net, don't you think? And you could have utilised players that we had. Like I say, you could have utilised Edson Alvarez as an alternative captain. You could have, again, and these are not players that I think myself are players that I would have as captains, and probably a couple of them you're going to recall at me even mentioning names. But we do have players that have been Premier League captains, like Max Kilman, like James Ward-Prowse. I believe Thomas Souček is the captain of the Czech Republic national team. So these are people that have had that accolade bestowed upon them and have done it to a reasonably decent standard, and maybe would have been a better fit than Jared Bowen is. And is the captain's armband something of a millstone around Jared Bowen? Does it maybe stunt his performances in some way, shape, or form? I don't know. It's a question I'm asking. I don't know the answer, truthfully. But whilst I agree with what Graham Potter is intimating, that there was a lack of leaders at the club and that possibly Jared Bowen is not who should have been the captain, I do think it's a failure of Graham Potter that's there for all to see, that he failed to deal with that problem. He had a transfer window. He had 8-9 months to assess things and get things right, and he failed to do it. He failed to do it. And that probably, Graham, is why you're now out of a job. I can't actually believe, I've even seen stories, and I'm sure you've probably seen it as well, that he's been linked with the job at Manchester United. Wow. Wow, he must have an outstanding agent. I mean, yeah, get him to Old Trafford, but if you're watching this and you happen to be a Manchester United fan, I think that's quite unlikely. But if you are a Manchester United fan, truthfully, you want to avoid this guy at all costs. He ruined Chelsea. He's ruined West Ham. Look, if you're watching this and you're a Liverpool or a Man City fan, get him to Old Trafford. But if you are a Man United fan, then you need to keep him as well away from there as possible. If he turns up and he's your manager and replaces Ruben Amorim, you're in a world of trouble. A world of trouble. And this story demonstrates it, because he knew that Jared Bowen was not a captain and did nothing about it. That's weak leadership. That's weak leadership, ladies and gentlemen. and that there is why he's now got a P45 and he's on dull queue. That's on him. But what do you think? Jared Bowen, do you think we're being a little bit unfair? Do you think he is potentially going to grow into the captain's role? Or do you think that maybe we've got someone else that's in the current squad that could do that job? Or do you think we're going to have to go shopping in the January transfer window when Nuno gets a little bit of a transfer kitty? And if that's the case, have you got anyone that you think fits the mark? Anyone that could come in January that you think could come in and be a better captain than Jared Bowen? Let me know your thoughts. You've got the comment section below. Don't forget to drop a like on the stream and give us a hype if you have one spare. Share this onto your social media platforms and just check to see if you're subscribed to the channel. And if you're not, please click subscribe and hit the bell notification so you'll know of any new content as and when it's uploaded to the channel. This doesn't cost you any money. We don't have your data sensitive information. We're just going to grow the channel and go on this journey together. Thanks very much for your time, guys. Stay safe. Come on, you irons.